The Simpsons has been on the air for over 3 decades, and in all that time, the show has rarely killed off characters permanently. When someone dies in Springfield, it's usually a joke, a dream sequence, or a treehouse of horror gag that gets reset by the next episode. But every once in a while, the show commits. A character dies, and they stay dead. Those deaths tend to linger longer than you'd expect. Not because they're shocking, but because they actually mean something. So, let's walk through the major characters The Simpsons has killed off and see what those deaths tell us about the show. We start with Bleeding Gums Murphy, who died in the season 6 episode Round Springfield. Bleeding Gums was Lisa's mentor, a jazz musician who understood her in a way almost no one else did. He first appeared in Moaning Lisa as the guy who taught Lisa that it's okay to be sad and that music can help you process those feelings. He was one of the few adults who took Lisa seriously. In Round Springfield, Lisa runs into Bleeding Gums at the hospital. He's there because he's sick, though the show doesn't dwell on the details. They have one last conversation about music and life, and then he dies. Lisa finds out later and is devastated. She wants to honor his memory by getting his album played on the radio, but nobody in Springfield seems to care. Eventually, she manages it with help from Bart, and the whole town hears Bleeding Gums music one last time. What makes this death work is how seriously the show treats it. There's no joke at the end. Bleeding Gums doesn't come back. Lisa grieves, and the episode lets her. It's one of the earliest examples of The Simpsons proving it could handle real emotion without undercutting it with a punchline. Next is Maude Flanders, and this is probably the most famous death in the entire series. Maude died in the season 11 episode Alone Again, Natura Diddly, and her death fundamentally changed Ned Flanders as a character. Maude was Ned's wife, the stable, sensible counterbalance to his over-the-top niceness. She wasn't in every episode, but when she was there, she grounded Ned. Her death was sudden and absurd. The family is at a speedway, and a t-shirt cannon misfires. Homer ducks, and the shirt hits Maude instead, knocking her off the bleachers. She falls and dies.
Oh my lord, she's dead!
It's treated as a tragedy within the episode, but the circumstances are so random that it almost feels like dark comedy. The real reason Maude was killed off was a contract dispute with her voice actress, Maggie Roswell, but the show had to deal with the fallout. Ned spirals after Maude's death. He questions his faith, struggles with grief, and eventually has a breakdown where he yells at everyone in Springfield for not being there for him. It's one of the rawest moments Ned has ever had, and it showed that even the most optimistic character on the show has limits. Maude stays dead, and her absence is felt for years. Ned eventually moves on and dates other women, but Maude is never replaced. Her death changed him permanently. Then there's Edna Krabappel, Bart's 4th grade teacher, who died off screen between seasons. The show didn't kill Edna in an episode. Instead, they retired the character after her voice actress, Marsha Wallace, passed away in 2013. The show acknowledged Edna's death in the season 25 premiere with a brief title card that read, "In loving memory of Marsha Wallace." Later, they confirmed that Edna had died, though they never explained how. Edna was one of the most consistent side characters in the show's history. She was cynical, exhausted, and underpaid, but she genuinely cared about her students, even Bart. Her relationship with Ned Flanders was one of the better long-term arcs the show had done in years.
I am a fallen woman.
They got married, and for a while, it seemed like both of them had found something real. Her death left Ned alone again, and the show handled it quietly. There was no dramatic funeral episode. Instead, Ned mentions her occasionally, and you can tell he's still grieving. The decision to retire Edna, rather than recast her, was respectful, and it gave the character a dignified exit. But it also meant losing one of the few characters who had real depth and history with the Simpson family. Moving on, we have Frank Grimes, though his death is a bit different. Grimes died in the season 8 episode, Homer's Enemy, one of the darkest episodes the show ever produced. Frank Grimes wasn't a recurring character. He appeared in one episode, but his death had a lasting impact because of what it represented. Grimes was a hard-working, self-made man who had nothing. He got a job at the power plant and immediately hated Homer because Homer had everything despite being incompetent and lazy. Grimes spent the entire episode trying to expose Homer as a fraud, but nobody cared. Eventually, Grimes snapped. He started mimicking Homer's careless behavior, grabbed high-voltage wires without safety gloves, and electrocuted himself. He died, and at his funeral, Homer fell asleep and everyone laughed.
Change the channel, Marge.
Grimes' death wasn't treated as a tragedy by the other characters, and that's what made it so unsettling. The episode was making a point about how the Simpsons universe rewards mediocrity and punishes people who try too hard. Grimes came back once as a ghost in a later episode. But his death in Homer's enemy remains one of the most memorable and uncomfortable moments in the series. Another notable death is Rabbi Krustofski, Krusty the Clown's father. He died in the season 26 episode Clown in the Dumps. The rabbi had appeared in a few episodes over the years, most notably in Like Father, Like Clown, where he and Krusty reconciled after years of estrangement. The rabbi disapproved of Krusty's career as a clown, but eventually he accepted it and they made peace. His death is handled with surprising tenderness.
Oh God, he's dead. And he never lived to see me be successful.
Krusty is devastated and struggles with grief throughout the episode. He even considers quitting comedy because his father was such a big part of why he did it in the first place. The episode doesn't dwell on the rabbi's death for too long, but it gives Krusty a real emotional arc, which is rare for a character who's usually just a punchline. The show commits to the loss and lets Krusty mourn in a way that feels genuine. Then there's Mona Simpson, Homer's mother. Mona died in the season 19 episode Mona Leaves Her.
Mom!
Though her death wasn't as emotionally resonant as it could have been. Mona had been a recurring character, appearing sporadically over the years. She was a radical activist who went on the run and had to leave Homer behind when he was a child. Their relationship was complicated, and Homer never fully forgave her for abandoning him. When Mona dies, Homer is conflicted.
Mom? Mom?
He's sad, but he's also angry. The episode tries to give him closure, but it feels rushed. Mona's death should have been a massive moment for Homer, but instead, it's treated like just another episode. She's buried, Homer scatters her ashes according to her wishes, and life moves on.
Goodbye, Mom. You're finally free.
It's one of the few times The Simpsons killed off a major character and didn't fully commit to the emotional weight of it. The death is permanent, but the impact feels muted compared to what it could have been. There's also Fat Tony, the local mobster, though his death comes with an asterisk. In the season 22 episode Donny Fatso, Fat Tony dies of a heart attack after the stress of believing Homer is an FBI informant becomes too much.
I loved you, man.
His cousin, Fit Tony, takes over the family business and immediately starts gaining weight due to the stress. By the end of the episode, Fit Tony has become fat and starts going by Fat Tony. So technically, the original Fat Tony is dead, but he's been replaced by someone who is functionally identical. It's a weird workaround that lets the show keep the character while still technically killing him off. The original Fat Tony is gone, but Springfield's mob boss remains unchanged. So why does The Simpsons rarely kill characters? Part of it is the nature of the show. The Simpsons is a sitcom, and sitcoms thrive on stasis. Characters don't age, relationships don't change, and life in Springfield stays frozen in time. Death disrupts that. It forces the show to move forward, and moving forward means things can't go back to the way they were. When The Simpsons does commit to a death, it's usually because the show has no other choice. Maude died because of a contract dispute. Edna died because her voice actress passed away. Bleeding Gums died because his story was over. These weren't creative decisions made for shock value. They were necessary, and the show had to deal with the consequences. What's interesting is that the deaths that work are the ones the show takes seriously. seriously. Bleeding Gums, Maude, and Edna all died in ways that felt permanent because the show treated them as permanent. The characters grieved, the world changed, and those losses were never undone. Frank Grimes' death works because it serves a purpose, commenting on the nature of the show itself. Rabbi Krustofski's death works because it gives Krusty real emotional depth. The deaths that feel hollow are the ones the show doesn't fully embrace. Mona Simpson's death should have devastated Homer, but it's handled with surprising restraint. Fat Tony's death is immediately undercut by replacing him with an identical character. The Simpsons has always been a show about a family that never changes, but death is the one thing that forces change. And when the show chooses to make a death permanent, it's a reminder that even in a cartoon, some things can't be undone. Those moments are rare, but they matter. They show that The Simpsons, for all its absurdity, still understands that loss is real and that some goodbyes are final. When the show commits to a death, it's not doing it for ratings or shock value. It's doing it because sometimes, even in Springfield, people leave and don't come back.